What is going on, everybody? This is 86 here, back with another video. Today I kind of just wanted to talk about the ROG Ally and Path of Exile 2, and if I feel like it's worth getting the game to play on the ROG Ally. If you have a ROG Ally but don't yet have Path of Exile 2, and also if it's worth going out to buy a ROG Ally to play a Path of Exile 2. Just kind of discuss both those elements and kind of the what you need to play, because there is kind of a required application that you need to be able to play Path of Exile 2 on ROG Ally. I mean, of course, you could do it without the app, but it's kind of just makes the gameplay experience a lot smoother, and you'll be a lot better off if you have the app. So, first off, you can play Path of Exile 2 on the ROG Ally. Without the app, you can probably get about 30 FPS, and when it gets a little heavy, you'll drop down to like 20, maybe even lower. So you're going to have a bit of an issue if you try to play it without some kind of frame generation, such as lossless scaling. So keep that in mind when thinking about purchasing the game. I don't recommend going out to get a ROG Ally specifically to play Path of Exile 2. But if you already have a ROG Ally and you're thinking about maybe buying Path of Exile 2 to play on there, I definitely feel like you can get a good amount of playtime into the game. You can get to end game. You can do a fair amount of mapping. It's just when things get really heavy in mapping, like if you have maps with a lot of modifiers or mods or things going on in them, you will get some pretty heavy frame dips and it'll probably drop down pretty low. Now with lossless scaling, you can get the frame rate up to 60 FPS with frame generation. I can do a video explaining how to use that. If anybody wants that, let me know in the comments and I'll work on a video of how to set up lossless scaling for Path of Exile 2. But so with lossless scaling, your base frames are at 30. With the scaling, it bumps it up to 60. You can get a nice solid 60 FPS. Maintains at 60 FPS pretty much 90% of the time. The only times I really get it to drop down below the 60 FPS with frame generation is with abysses, with a lot of mobs. It could drop down to like 25 FPS or so. Um, Not That's 25 FPS without the frame generation. With the frame generation, it still maintains about 40 or 50 FPS. So it's still definitely playable at that state. It just gets a little difficult. And you also have to consider that you do have latency when you use frame generation. I know the latency is not a huge factor, but it is definitely something to consider when fighting bosses where, certain timing has to be pretty good. You have to take that into consideration, and it can make some fights a little bit harder when dealing with the latency. But overall, the experience has been smooth. It's not You're not going to get no huge graphical fidelity out of the ROG Ally with Path of Exile 2. You do have to play it on the lowest settings. You do have to use dynamic polling and some other features to get it to run smooth, but it's definitely possible. Uh, like I said, I don't recommend going out and buying a ROG Ally just to play, but you definitely can. Like if you already have a ROG Ally and you've kind of been on the fence about picking up PoE 2, and all you have to do is pick up the game, then and maybe get lost to scaling, then at that point I think I could recommend getting the game, and you will be able to play all the way up until the end game. Now, will you be able to get all the way to the pinnacle boss and completely beat everything? That I am not 100% sure about. I am still mapping on my lightning spear character. I ran into very little issues. As you can see here, we have an abyss going on with quite a few mobs, and um, the lossless scaling frame rate is dropped down to about a 57, and the base frame rate dropped down to about a 27, 25 might have been the lowest dip there. So overall, it's not completely terrible and it's not unplayable. So just keep in mind, I just kind of wanted to do a video about this because this is probably one of the cheaper options for a gaming system out there to be able to play Path of Exile 2. I don't really know how well it performs on the PS5 yet. I haven't really heard too much about that. but I think you can get a nice solid at 30 FPS out of a PS2. I'm not really 100%, or PS5, I mean, sorry. But that's just kind of my overall thoughts and takes on the ROG Ally. I definitely recommend if you have a ROG Ally, I think you're pretty safe to go ahead and pick up PoE 2. But I do highly recommend getting lossless scaling along with it. You'll have a much better time. I am not sponsored by them at all either, just so you guys know that. Not sponsored by lossless scaling. I just use that program a lot with the ROG Ally to play some more high fidelity games, and it really seems to do the trick. That game, I can't praise that app enough for how well it does with the frame generation, and really just recommend Path of Exile to anybody that can play it. I really just recommend you guys give this game a try. It can be a little bit more challenging, but I feel like it's really worth it once you get into the game and you figure it out. The bosses are so much fun. The game world looks amazing. There's so much content to do. And this is only in early access. It's literally only going to get better. So just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on the ROG Ally and Path of Exile. It is definitely playable on here. Like I said, I really highly recommend lossless scaling. But yeah, you can definitely get at a nice solid 60 FPS with the frame generation, and it doesn't drop. I mean, you're going to get drop downs and slowdowns with a lot of stuff going on, but it's still playable. Like I said, I'm still mapping on my other character, doing just fine, fighting bosses. I'm leveling a new character now, and just enjoying everything that the game has to offer. And yeah, that was just kind of, I've been wanting to do a video about this for a few days now, just kind of talking about how the ROG Ally actually handles the performance of Path of Exile 2, and just kind of give my overall thoughts on if I think it's worth a purchase. And like I said, I feel like if you already have the ROG Ally, Path of Exile 2 is definitely worth the purchase. It's just like I said, get the lossless scaling. I can do a video on that to show you guys how to set it up. You guys can also look online for a tutorial for lossless scaling. There's plenty of those out there as well. But yeah, just really solid game. I'm glad I was at least able to check it out on the ROG Ally and play through the end game. And I'm just gonna keep working my way through, and hopefully I'll be able to really crush through the rest of the end game and hopefully fight the pinnacle boss on the ROG Ally. I'll give you guys an update video if that happens to not be the case, but I don't see why it wouldn't be. So thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and if you play the ROG Ally, let me know. I want to hear what games you've been able to play on the ROG Ally. So it really is a really powerful handheld, and it keeps just blowing me away with the performance and how well it does. So thank you guys again. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Peace.